nice family. A loving, nice, shy mother, and a hardworking, nice man. And our life, my brother's and my life, was very good. Not as a baby, I don't remember that. Although I was born very close to where Mel ended up working, or living for a little while, in San Francisco Children's Hospital, which was looked over the panhandle of the park in San Francisco. And it was a good place to be born, and life just went on very well. When I was 5, a strange man came into my father's basement, where he had been working for a couple of years. He had taken over the printing business of his father, but he was an inventor. And so he improved on everything his father ever thought was great. And he built an interesting press that had a way of feeding tissue paper through the rolls of the big presses. Previously, without the thing that he invented that blew gently on the tissue, separated it, and separate pieces of paper went through and were printed. Before, separate pieces would come through, but without the separation, they'd jam up. And my whole memory of my father was him standing in his building and saying, "Oh no!" And you'd hear,
Stop the presses!
and this tissue paper would roll up through, half a dozen or a dozen rollers. I don't remember. They looked like 1,000 to me because I was quite young. And that invention took him to Chicago, and a man from Chicago came out to meet us, and I was 5 years old, and I'd done some artwork. I thought it was artwork. And the man was very nice, and he said, "Oh, those are wonderful pictures. How much would you like me to pay you to get those pictures from you?" And I thought very hard, and I said, $3 half and $3 whole dollars. And it was the Depression. And that was a lot of money. I had no idea how much it was, but I thought it sounded great. And he gave it to me. And he said, "I can't take these away from you. You keep the money and the pictures." And I always kind of wondered at that, but I was very pleased. So off we went to Chicago and lived there for 5 years. My brother and I loved it. It was freezing in the winter, but we ice skated on the baseball whatever. And in the summer it was hot, and we rode our bicycles to the lake, and it was a good life. My mother hated it because we burned coal in those days, and she was always cleaning the walls and trying to keep things, and saying, "In California, it's not dirty like this."
We don't have to burn coal.
Well, anyway, we lived there 5 years and came back to Berkeley and lived in Berkeley. My grandparents lived in San Francisco. My grandfather sold legal books, and he traveled all over. And the technical books for, I'm sorry, I have trouble picking up the words I want and getting them out my mouth to you. But anyway, it was a good business, and my grandmother was a mother and a housekeeper and a cross person to her dogs. She tended them up every night and only gave them hamburger every night.
Oh my.
Fresh hamburger. Could you believe it? She'd get pounds of it, chop it all up, and the dogs would eat it. But we'd had wonderful family dinners there at the different holidays. and she lived at 380 3rd Street in San Francisco, just below the park, and was great friends with the gardeners in the park, and actually helped them develop several different types of flowers and so forth, and shrubberies. So after we went to Berkeley, we didn't see much of our grandparents because they had to take the ferry boat across, but then they built a bridge. And I'll remember the first time my grandparents, instead of crossing on a ferry, got on the bridge, and we were at the other end. And it was quite a wonderful experience. I went to school in Berkeley, and so did my brother, and I can't remember the name of the school right now, but it was just one of the smaller schools in Berkeley. From there I went to junior high and high school and so on and so forth. And those were great days. It was interesting in high school. We had 2 places that we could sit, chat, and eat our sandwiches. One was for the black people. There were about 25 black students in the school at the time I was there, and then the rest of us. So it was, looking back, an interesting time. They were very nice black people, and I don't know why we didn't associate with them. That's the way it was. I didn't take up smoking with my other girlfriends in my senior year. I tried. I tried in my bedroom, and I opened the window, and I stuck my head way out and exhaled and got sick. So I just didn't try that again. My brother got a car. It was a great convertible, some kind or other, I don't know, but it went put up and then down. And I didn't drive it, but later we shared a nice, my father was a lover of cars, and he bought a convertible for my brother and myself, and we just loved that car. My brother had it when he was a senior in high school, and I was sitting around waiting to get my hands on it when he graduated. He went into the Army and was gone for 2 years, but he didn't, he stayed in the country, and I grew up and began my teenage years with this, that, and the other thing. Then I went to Cal, and I remember my first couple of days in Cal. I had a science class, and we had a high rising seats for about 100 kids. And the professor went around the first day and asked us each our name and to please take the same seat the next day. The next day we took the same seat, and he called us all by name. And I was pretty impressed with him, and I thought, I'm in a great school, any professor that could do that. And my whole life at Cal went along beautifully. I majored in journalism and speech as a minor in the senior year, and that was pretty good. But the teacher of the newspaper life said, well, it's too bad. Oh, there were only 2 girls in the class for a year and a half. And the teacher's last words to me were, well, good luck, but don't try anything but society or fashion because women have no place in newspapers. So that totally wiped me out. And,
But you always liked fashion, right?
I went out and instead of, after graduation, I got a job with a junior law, hauled in to the prison for the junior teenagers and so forth, and that was pretty pitiful. Then I heard about teaching, a special teaching, because there was an emergency and a lack of teachers, and in one quick summer, you could learn to be a teacher in Richmond. So I went to Richmond and had these courses, and they were terrific. But they didn't teach me to be a teacher, and the kids didn't help much when I was trying to teach them. But I got through that, and so on and so forth. At my graduation, I married my boyfriend at the time, and in 3 years we decided that was a mistake. The only mistake we didn't make was we had Vicki. After that, I just went on teaching here and there, and I was single for 9 years, so Vicki and I had a great life, just
Cool
being
chicks.
with each other.
Cool chicks.
I taught in Montclair for 5 years, and I had Vicki in my 3rd grade, and she called me Mrs. Smith.
Kind of a challenging year.
Oh my God.
And half the kids never knew she was my daughter. So that was kind of...
Except that she used to bring me cupcakes at recess, and that was a clue.
Giveaway busted, Nance.
Into the
Sorry, you're
cabinet.
just so outed.
Where'd you get that cupcake?
No, teacher. Oopsie.
Well, anyway, life continued. I bought a house, and we lived... you know where the tunnel is in Montclair, and you go through the tunnel, and there's that 1 block long. That's where Vicki and I lived. I bought a house there. And oddly enough, one day, the head of the Girl Scout, no, it wasn't her, was it? It was her. And a neighbor that Vicki stayed with when I was teaching school, and she got out early, they were talking.
Cahoots.
And,
In cahoots.
Planning.
This
Scheming.
one
Matchmakers.
gal said,
Matchmaking.
oh, honestly, I don't know what to do about Dr. Donaldson. He's Mel lived about 4 or 5 blocks away. I don't know, across the street and up the hill. And anyway, A said to B, I don't know what to do about him. He's just so lonely. His wife is gone, he has all these kids. And
You should have run, all these kids.
the other one said, well, how about Nance? And so how about Nance? Nance was down the street from this one woman that Vicki stayed with when school was open. And I said, well, okay, it's a nice doctor and so on and so forth.
What harm could it
Doctor
do?
was like, he drives a Mercedes. Okay,
I didn't
Doctor.
It was a blind date, and he phoned me for a date on the weekend, and I said, well, I'm busy. How about during the week? And he lit up and said, oh, during the week, you mean Monday through Friday? Yes. So we went out to dinner, and he was on call, and the phone rang.
Oh, Mel.
As soon as he got back to the table,
Oh, dear.
the phone rang again.
Oh, Mel.
In between,
Oh, dear.
he was telling me all about this wife, and I couldn't quite figure out his story because she sounded very strange. She had left him and her children and gone off. And I just didn't quite catch on to what he was saying. Anyway, we met again to straighten out what he was saying. 3 months later, we decided it was time to get married.
3 months later? Oh my heavens.
I went to his house and he invited me to dinner. Heidi cooked this beautiful dinner.
Heidi?
It was
Do you remember
canned
this?
peas.
Canned peas? Canned? You didn't even do frozen?
I've never
Heidi,
had
bad
canned
you.
vegetables
Bad you.
ever.
Very bad you.
And
Very bad
Really
you.
quick the frozen ones.
And, we went into the living room and there were stiff chairs all the way around.
Oh,
Chairs
dear.
like that are like our dining table chairs, all the way around the room, because that's kind of all she left him, and she.
Wow.
I'm exaggerating a bit, but it's been a long time.
I remember the chairs like
And so
I thought they were
I
I
met the
don't
children.
remember that.
And I was sitting on the Davenport, we called them in those days.
God, only in
And
films.
I was talking to, where is he? The little boy.
Bruce?
Little Bruce, the little boy.
He was 10, and we were talking, and Mel was sitting on one side and Bruce on another. And Bruce asked me, "Can you draw me a picture of a wrestler?" We were talking about something. And I said, "A picture of a wrestler?" Yes. So I drew him a picture of a wrestler, of course. And he said, "Oh, that's wonderful."
So that was the whole test?
Yeah, that
That's
was
a good test, Bruce.
Bruce
Yeah,
is
that's the
good.
witness.
We were really big into wrestling.
Oh, he had
Shoot,
big
at first
shoulders
date,
and
we could
so
ask
on. He was a good wrestler, wasn't he, Bruce?
You're
Have
talking
you
Channel
forgotten that?
48.
No, I
I've
remember like
never
yesterday.
heard that.
Well, Bruce and I got along from that point on. Then later, getting ready for the wedding, we had to get a gown. That one was on a round-the-world boat trip.
Oh dear.
And she needed an outfit. And so I bought two beautiful outfits
Really beautiful.
for her for the wedding, one of which she could have and the other we'd take back, you know, right?
Yeah.
We'll take that dress
Well,
routine.
she sort of liked them both and they were so
I
cute
got
on her,
to
we
keep
kept them both.
of them.
And we didn't tell Mel about that. So the wedding took place and everything was fine. And everything went fine for the rest of my life with that Mel.
Wow.
Oh,